and the whole thing. And literally, I did a New York thing and a Miami thing, and then everything else in my entire plan for 2020 got shut down. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I felt disappointment, the feeling of disappointment. It was like this external entity coming at me, like it was like a ghost or something. And I felt it getting closer and closer. And you can't write the book, The Audacity to Be Queen, the unapologetic art of dreaming big and manifesting your most fabulous life, and not practice what you preach. I just didn't know I was going to be given such a, like, so soon of an opportunity after the book came out. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to actually say I'm thrilled that I waited 20 years to write a book and my entire book tour got canceled because, like, that. I'm thrilled that there's no chance for me to walk into the Today Show studios right now because, like, this was like my lifelong dream. And I'm not going to lie, Christine, I had to dig for this. And because normally it would come really fast. This one wasn't. So I'm like digging and I'm digging. And I got, okay, I'm thrilled this is happening because, well, I guess I didn't write this book just to make money and just to sell books. I really wanted this message in the hearts and lives of women. So nobody's doing anything. Like, there's never been a better time to read than when you have to stay home during a global pandemic. So, okay, maybe people will actually not just buy the book, but read the book. Okay, I'm thrilled this is happening because, okay, I don't get to do a physical in-person book tour, but I could do a virtual one. And I pivoted, and I started realizing the podcast that I was getting on had literally not just tens of thousands of reach, but like tens of millions of reach with the podcast I was getting on, which would have been nowhere close to the numbers I would have gotten in front of in person. And we'll do one more. Like, I'm thrilled this is happening because I was going to be, like, you know me, I'm willing to work, I'm willing to hustle. Like, I was going to be flying to God knows where, Poughkeepsie to do the morning show, and St. Louis this, and Tallahassee, like, you know, and then when I realized, like, all the studios got shut down, I'm like calling my publicist, I'm like, get me Chicago, get me Houston, get me DC, like, you know, and so I got to do all this awesome media, literally sitting right here from the comfort of my own home, which saved so much money and time, and I got to do so many more. So, you know, when you really do find, like, I'm thrilled this is happening because, and this is not to say that there are not devastating traumas that people experience in life. I just think that we self-manufacture so much pain when we think that we're being left behind or my book tour can't happen, and it's just not true.
Well, and having experienced some devastating traumas myself more recently, you know, I can say that with time, you know, I couldn't have said it in the moment when I'm, you know, in the devastation of the post-apocalyptic nightmare that was my life following 2 Cat 5 hurricanes. But in the totality of it, and not far down the road, I could see the many gifts that it brought going through that experience. And, you know, this brings us to where we are currently, right? And, you know, I think that in the business conversation, so many people are struggling with, I remember when your book came out, I was so excited, and I'm thinking to myself, when the lockdown came, oh my gosh, poor Gina, right? And what a drag. And my book, thankfully, isn't coming out until June. So I'm going to be fine. And of course, that was not the case, right? And then not only did we have the lockdown still, but that was in the midst of people's voices coming out more strongly for Black Lives Matter. And there was no other conversation to be had besides those two. And so, you know, recognizing, and you were so helpful with me talking about, it's about the work. It's not about the bestseller list or any of that I might have put on my list as things I want to accomplish with this book. And, you know, we've all had to experience life is not what we were expecting. And unlike, you know, me and the hurricanes, they passed, I'm in the aftermath, but we're still in it, in the storm. Mm-hmm. And I know that you have been very prosperous during this time. So how can we share with our audience how to, for themselves, create that prosperity out of what may feel like utter devastation and nowhere to go?
Yes. So real quick, I'll tag on to, you know, yes, I remember you and I talking about, like, it's a slow, it doesn't have to be about the first week the book comes out. It's New York Times. It can be a slow burn. Well, I got an email this week that, and this is where when you just have an open heart and you have a great attitude, things are going to come to you that you didn't know could possibly exist. I got an email, Christine, this week that the Audacity to Be Queen audiobook is eligible for a Grammy nomination. A Grammy nomination. I didn't even know audiobooks were eligible for Grammys, but apparently it's spoken word, and the book was submitted, and people are voting literally this week. So anyone listening is part of that voting people, then for your information, the Audacity to Be Queen is up. Anyways, I just want you to know, like, the universe has eyes, and you just keep doing your work, and you're going to keep being delivered the next opportunity, because everything that happens is never meant for destruction. It's not what humans make out of it. So, for example, in terms of prosperity, especially right now, I think 90% of my business model is based on in-person, high-end destination programs. Like I do live events. We travel the world. I'm usually traveling 6 to 9 months out of the year. And this is what people have paid me for, is to show up at these live luxury, epic destinations. So yeah, I took a little gander at that and was like, how's this going to work? And, I maintained what was going on in the current programs. We went virtual in some areas. We postponed other things in other areas. But the way that I really seized the opportunity, I literally, when this pandemic hit, I heard Tony Robbins in the back of my mind saying, I don't know, one of his Hour of Power CDs from the 90s, I think, said, during a crisis, there's a certain group of people that will always prevail when most people don't. And I clung on to that, and I was like, that's going to be me this year. And I didn't know what. I just knew that there was going to be an opportunity in this crisis. And that doesn't mean preying on other people's misfortune. It just means, I think we know that during the economic crisis of 2009, that's when Uber came up and all kinds of startups, get created. So I just looked to see what was going to be created this year. And fortunately, for me, I've been studying internet marketing for 15 years now, and I hadn't been seizing a number of opportunities that have been in front of my face, quite honestly, for years. One is a podcast. People are saying I should start a podcast, and I didn't, and I hadn't until my friends were like, Gina, this is the number one thing that has moved the needle in my business. I'm like, okay, I'll start a podcast. Next, people were doing what they call these 5-day challenges, and I would watch them, and I was not just personally never drawn to them because I'm often hosting events in front of the pyramids in Egypt or on a yacht in Mykonos. So it didn't really rank for me until it did. And I started doing 5-day challenges, and not only were they fun, I was so surprised at how much intimacy got created with thousands of people doing these 5-day challenges. Then they became super lucrative, not just for me, but for others as well, because I was selling lower price programs than I always had. And for my business model, I do high-end events, I sell from the stage, I sell high-end programs, and that was that model. So now I'm online in a Facebook live group, doing lives and selling lower price programs with stretched out payment plans, and it went like Streisand tickets in the 80s. So, I literally flipped my business model on its head and took a note from what other successful people in the industry were doing, and it has been, yes, a blessing in the life of my company and my team, but also for all the people that got to now work with me in a way that wasn't previously offered.
Well, and that's extraordinary, right? To have you accessible to people who feel like you're not accessible at your normal rates. And what an incredible thing that is. And I myself have been aware of how well you've pivoted, and what a great lesson for all of us. I hope you guys will all check out Gina at divineliving.com and learn lots more about her programs. I am so honored that you were able to be here with us today and to share this wisdom with us. The Audacity to Be Queen should be on all of your bookshelves. And future Grammy-winning book, The Audacity to Be Queen. Gina, some final words of wisdom to our audience before we say goodbye.
Yes. Well, I think that your book title really says it, The Resilient Leader, and resilience is really what it's about. Nobody's getting lucky. There's no free lunches out there. Nobody's more talented. Nobody's more worthy. So whatever your dream is, like, stay focused on it. Be resilient. Be resourceful. Dust yourself off and pick it up again. You know, not everything I touch turns to gold. But the few things that do makes life really great, and the other things I learn from. So just really be the number one advocate for your own dreams.
Amen. True words. Thank you so much, Gina. Everybody, check out the website, learn more about Gina, and get the book. Thanks, everybody.